Yo, and welcome back to another episode of You Feel That with Bryce the Third. Today is the beginning of a 6-part series where we're rerunning some of my favorite podcast episodes. We were on episode 43 or 44 or something like that, and so there's a lot of content if you're just getting on board that you may have never heard. And I wanted to add like new perspective on the content. So I'm not going to do the whole intro and nothing like that, because you'll get the intro and you'll see too in these different episodes, like the intro changes, because I think one thing that is perpetually going on here at the show is that we change, develop, evolve, and grow. And I think that is very important with anything that we set out to accomplish or set out to build, is that we be willing to grow. So as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see me. I'm in my new studio right now, and I should flip everything around so I can show you the destruction that I'm in the middle of. I'm putting these things together. I'm in a stone basement. I put all the soundproofing up. So what it looks like is it looks kind of cool to you because of the angle that I got it shot in, but I am in the midst of chaos. But I just want to come down here, bring some of this new energy to the new studio. And by the end of this run of these episodes with new perspective on them, we should be all the way here in the podcast studio, and I'm super excited about it. But today's podcast episode was a really special one for me. It was one that I knew for sure that I would do when I first started the podcast. So You Feel That started as a podcast for highly sensitive people. And I dug into like HSPs, what they call highly sensitive people. And I just coined the term, being unaware that there was actually a community that considered themselves to be highly sensitive people. But I just knew that I felt a lot of feelings, and I knew that I was like, I am super receptive to emotions. And so in the midst of that, it's like, okay, I think the show that I could start is a show that talks about our emotions and how to show up in a world of creativity with the emotions that we deal with in such a way that allows for us to be productive and allows for us to be impactful and allows for us to not be debilitated in the midst of the feelings. So setting out with that mission, I knew like I was going to touch on love, especially at this point. When I recorded this episode, I was maybe not too far out of a breakup, maybe a year or so out of a breakup. And I definitely did a lot of research on like what love is, like internally, spiritually, as well as externally, reading a lot of books. And I'd had some experiences in interpersonal relationships and intimate relationships, and more experience in like, as a father and just showing up in life in such a way that I felt like I was ready to drop that episode. So just to give you like a little bit more context on where I am now with it, I've had more experience. And I have more of an understanding of what love is. And love seems to be more of who it is that I am and how it is that I show up. One thing I say throughout this episode a lot is that I'm definitely going to make an episode 2, or I'm going to make a part 2 of this episode. And I think that is definitely valid. We're going to have multiple love episodes on this show. And even though the show's focus has pivoted a bit, I think it's still rooted in how can we show up the best that we can, feeling the feelings that we feel. And within that is baked in compassion and understanding and overall love. Like really and truly, like if you were to dig into the depth of our community, it's love. It's love and support, understanding, community, compassion. Love. And I'm in love with love even to this day. Like I'm in love with showing up unconditionally. I'm in love with compassion. I'm in love with like romanticism. Like I'm in love with like I'm in love with love. Like I really fuck with love. And so this episode, a lot of what it was that I had defined love as being, though I still see these things as valid, I think that maybe I have a more evolved understanding of these things. And the reason I point that out is because I think it's important for you to continue to allow for your process of growth. Like if you move into a new studio, like get in there, like even if it's ugly, like continue to change. Don't be so caught up in what it is that you thought that things were, that you don't allow yourself to dig into what things are and what things potentially could be. And so there's ways that I define love that I have a more evolved understanding of, and my antenna is still up. My receptivity is still up. There's still a lot of experience for me to have. There's still a lot of spaces for me to practice in. There's still a lot of love I have yet to receive and have yet to give. And that saying that we haven't even met everybody that's gonna love us yet. So there's a lot more to learn. And so I'm excited about the part 2 of this episode that I'm finna air today. But without further ado, here goes the episode 8 of You Feel That, Meditations on Love. And as an aside or as a bonus, after the episode, if you'd like to stick around after the episode, we will be doing a quite literal meditation on love. I'm going to give you a guided meditation, 5-10 minute guided meditation, and we'll sit. And like I've learned that meditation has allowed for me to broaden my understanding, broaden my perspective on life's experience. And so I think I'm in a season where I want to share more of that with you all as a tool, but also as, maybe that can be the catalyst to you jumpstarting your own personal practice. So I'll see you after the show if that's something you're into, and enjoy the episode. Hey, you feel that?
You are now tuned into You Feel That with Bryce the Third.
Yo, and we back. Welcome to another episode of You Feel That? The premier podcast for those looking to grow, exceed, and excel in the world as a highly sensitive person, a emotionally sensitive person, whatever you want to call it. This is the space for y'all. My name is Bryce the Third. I'm your host, emotional wellness mentor, creator, recording artist. And today we have the inevitable episode. This episode was bound to happen. It was going to happen eventually. Anybody who knows me knows this is a topic that I can spend years talking about. That's right. This is the love episode. So today is going to be a meditation on love. And if that sounds like it's a bit up for interpretation, that's because it is. Love is one of my most meditated upon concepts. It's such a loaded word. What does it mean? What does it mean to me? Is there a general understanding of what it is? Spoiler alert, no. And all of the other big things that love tends to bring about when it comes to questions and thoughts. Look, we on all that and more today on You Feel That. But before we get into this episode, a word from our sponsor, me. So before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by my Patreon, Bryce the Third. Look at this. Ooh, Bryce the Third. Ooh. I get it. You're mad emotional. There's not really a supportive place to be yourself, your emotional self. You want to learn how to harness these emotions and use them for good. You no longer want to be debilitated by these heavy emotions, but you want to be empowered by the ways that you feel deeply. You want to dig into more tools, more resources, and overall just take your life to the next level. Well, let me tell you, my friend, you are doing yourself a service by even listening to this podcast, because you are exactly who I made this podcast for. And if you want to help take this podcast to the next level, because I'm always growing and I'd rather grow with friends, hop on over to my Patreon. There's 3 tiers that you could pledge a monthly subscription to. Tier 1 is to show us some monthly love and help us take this thing to the next level perpetually. With Tier 2, you get access to a weekly text group that, trust me, you want to be a part of. With weekly motivation, reminders to give yourself compassion at just the right time, and updates on the newest products before anybody else gets their hands on them. And in Tier 3, not only do you get access to the Tier 2 text group, but you get a special shout out at the end of every episode of You Feel That. So basically, you become a damn celebrity. However you decide to show up is greatly appreciated, and I'm aiming to give you 3 times the value of whatever it is that you put in. Because the universe helps those who helps themselves. You can find a link to the Patreon page in the show description of whatever you're listening to your podcast on. And if you're on YouTube, it's down there in the description. Now let's get to the show. All right, let's get it jumped off. Hopefully we're not here till next week. And I'm really thinking, like, even as I'm beginning this podcast episode, that I want to do an episode where I get voice notes from you all. I get you all to send in what it is that you consider love to be and what your experience on love is. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I want to start by being authentic about why it's even taking this long for me to do this episode. One, because I was scared. It has almost been intimidating to sit down and meditate about love, especially a topic like love, where I know that when I listen back to this episode years from now, I will probably have a different understanding of what it is that I lay out on the floor today. And painting yourself as an authority in a space, quote on, if you're on YouTube, you see my fucking air quotes, because I hate, like, I don't hate anything, but I dislike that painting yourself as an authority, because, like, how much can I be an authority? The more I learn, the more I find out I don't know. So I really don't want to put myself. The only thing I want to do is empower you to be able to take on your life and to be prepared to do your own inquisition and learn what you need to learn, that so that you're empowered by the things that life brings to your doorstep. So when it comes to love, I have been hesitant to sit down and talk about and meditate on what it is that I've come to understand about love, around love, because it's like I'm not like I don't know shit. The more I learn, the more I find out I don't know. But we gonna kind of like put what I have found out thus far under a petri dish, and you could take it or leave it. I'm pretty sure, and I'm okay with that, but I'm pretty sure like people will hear this episode and be like, nah, son, like that's not what love is. Like, what the fuck? Like, you weird, you off brand. But hey, I mean, that's the risk you take when you put your emotions and thoughts and feelings and process on the table authentically, in a way that doesn't really aim to please everybody. I'm just trying to share my experience with you all as to what it is that I've come to understand around the topic of love. And even saying topic, like that sounds like too topical, like around the connotation of love, like real love, and just, what it is that I've come to find that love is in my life. So what is love? Sheesh. Where do we start? Love is a loaded word. And what I found is that love almost holds as much load as the word God does. And maybe they might even be the same thing. Ooh, blowing minds today. But, like, depending on who you ask, like, what is God? Everybody will tell you what it is that they've come to understand that God is. And maybe some people might have the same answers or similar answers, and then other people will have answers that are totally different from each other because of the word. It's a word, and I'm a linguistic guy. Like, I love words, I love communication, and there's some words that it's just a word. So if I say teapot, I mean, you think a teapot, right? But when I say God, there's so much connotation underlying that, and it depends on the culture that you come from, on what you've come to understand that this word means, from what people have told you, from what you've seen that people who say that they believe in God or show love, like what it looks like from what you've seen. So it's just so many factors that play into like what it is that we come to understand that these things are, right? So when I say like love is a loaded word, and it's kind of like God, like both of those words are loaded. And for me, I still am growing in my understanding of what love and God is. So like I continue to show up on a daily basis, not necessarily to have the answers. And what I found about like with God, is that when I show up having to know what God is, like my quality of life drops. And what I found is that, well, maybe, if God exists or whatever God is, like maybe God wouldn't want me to like have a decreased quality of life. So maybe I need to stop being so attached to having the answer and be okay with being in the meditation of, and my life being a meditation of like what this thing can mean to me in this moment where the most important things are going on now in the present. So what does God mean to me right now? What does love mean to me right now? But yeah, I've just come to find that love is a super loaded word, and I tend to tread lightly on both of those words, love and God, when it comes to creating content and putting things out, because it's like I might say something and it might get lost in translation because of what it is that somebody else have kind of understand these things to be. So when you ask the question, what is love? Maybe I'll say, maybe I'll give you an answer, but I also think an accurate answer is I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. But I not knowing and seeking has taught me more about what it may be than feeling as if I know what it is, right? So like a couple of things that have helped to tune my compass, my personal spiritual and emotional compass as to what love is, are interpersonal relationships, misunderstandings and confusion that lead to clarity, exposing myself to others' opinions and point of views around love to come to a higher understanding. And let's like riff on all of those things, right? So interpersonal relationships, this includes the relationship with women. I'm a straight man, so like that's, my physical biological attraction, what they would call romantically, right? Like it's to women. So in my interactions with women, platonic and romantic, I don't fucking know. Like even to say these things like romantic, like it just seems insubstantial for some of the experiences that I've had, right? Because like I've gone from like being, oh my God, I love you because love at first sight, you're beautiful to me, to, oh, like like you are a representation of things inside of myself that I love the most, and it's not you that I fuck with, it's me that I fuck with, and you are a pathway to that thing inside of me that I really love. And I've had this development in all of these things have been brought out through my interpersonal relationships, through the relationships that I've had with other people. And this could be relationships with women, relationship with my family, relationship with my kids, relationships with strangers, relationships with people, like people in general, the stranger on the street, like, the things that my daughter and my son have taught me about myself and about love and how to give and not look to like receive back or to like, because it always beats me upside the head when I'm giving and it's like I don't give back, and then I get this notion like, oh man, I did these things. I shouldn't have did these things because y'all ain't even giving back to me. But like when you're a father, like that should go out the window. Like we give, like you give, period. Kids don't even have the capacity to give back initially. I mean, hopefully I'm raising responsible give backers. I don't know. We won't be able to find out until that happens, right? And my kids are my daughter is one of the most kind, sharing human beings you'll ever fucking meet. So I can't say that, but sometimes like it'll be moments where it's like I did these things throughout the day, and then there's a fit thrown, or there's emotions, big emotions, and we have to work through them. And it's like initially like my reaction is I did this and this and this and this and this, and now you want to trip on woo woo, So just these different relationships show me how to be love and how to show love and how to show up as love in all these different circumstances, right? Misunderstandings and confusion that lead to clarity. Now, this is one of my biggest teachers, one of the most profound classrooms I've ever sat in is misunderstanding and confusion. It's nothing like when you think that something is one thing and then you show up expecting it to be that one thing and it's not that one thing. So there's two things that can happen. You can either railroad it and bulldoze it like, nah, it's this because I said it's this. Or you could be a student of life and allow for what's shown to you to be the new lesson of what actually is. Like to allow for what is to be is in essence a piece of love that I've come to understand as being, right? Like, so if I see carpet and I want it to be blue, but it's red, as long as I show up and railroad it with my mind, you need to be blue, right? That's the color I said. You need to be blue, but you're red, but you're not what I need you to be. Like, you need to be this. And it's like the moment I'm able to like see that this carpet is blue and accept it for what it is and allow it to be so, like, oh, that's practicing love, but it's that misunderstanding and confusion that if I just railroad this carpet, like it'll change colors like that, and in the breaking of my will and my ego that allows me to show up and allow for the carpet to be whatever fucking color it is, because that's what color it's going to be. And my peace of mind only comes when I allow for it to be what it is. Like, that's the lesson. That's a lesson. So misunderstandings and confusion that lead to clarity. Shoo! Biggest teachers in the world, especially when it comes to love, right? Exposing myself to others' opinions and point of view around love to come to a higher understanding. There's a lot of points of views and opinions of love that I don't agree with. There are a lot of different points of views and opinions of love, like we talked about earlier. It's such a loaded word that so many people have understanding that differ from mine. But to be able to show up and have that conversation with people and be okay when our understandings differ, and then sometimes like the friction of understanding that doesn't jibe with my current understanding against my understanding kind of is like the sandpaper that smooths out new understandings, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. A lot of times we'll be okay with being in the bubble. It's like, la, no, this is what love is. Love is I fall in love and then I get swept away and it's Cinderella and it's blah, blah, blah. Don't say shit to me. I don't believe it. And being a student of life and showing up like to learn from life, I've learned that I gotta kind of put that to the side. Like, I can't put my fingers in the ear, even if I really stand on something. Like, I have to allow myself to be subjected to different points of views and opinions. And that always has led me to a higher understanding within myself. Because of course there's things I don't agree with, but knowing that these things exist kind of add a different variable to my thing. So not only does my understanding exist, but my understanding exists in the context of contrasted and compared to this understanding. So which gives my understanding even more weight. And sometimes I can be I could be exposed to an understanding that helps me take my understanding to a higher understanding, if that makes sense. All those understandings. If I got paid for every time I say understanding on the show, I would be a trillionaire. All right, so moving forward. So why is love important? Scientific studies have shown that the emotion of love causes our body to release feel-good hormones and neurochemicals that trigger specific positive reactions. Levels of dopamine, adrenaline, and norepinephrine increase when people are in love. Together, these chemicals are responsible for all the magic that we feel when we are in love. That's perhaps why we refer often to the chemistry of love. Unconditional love and compassion have many benefits, and they help in the expansion of our consciousness from the I, me, myself obsession to the more expansive we, us, and our. This is from an article in the economictimes.indiatimes.com. And what I really like about that piece, besides teaching me how to say neuroepinephrine, was that it spoke on the expansion of our consciousness from I, me, myself to the more expansive we, us, and ours. And thus is the power of compassion and understanding, which I found is wrapped into love. Love helps us to get outside of ourselves. Love helps us to get inside of the betterment of us all. And chemically, like, it helps to feel these feelings of connectivity. Chemically, with oxytocin being released when we are in love. Big quotes, big quotation, big air quotes. Like, that helps us to feel up. It picks us up. It gives us the energy to want to contribute and be creative. So why wouldn't we want more love in our lives? And then if you think of where we come from and how we have these foundational understandings as we grow and live in life, like the kids, when kids are cared for, it makes a difference. But when people are cared for, it makes a difference. But like if at a young age, like I'm fed into and I'm given compassion, I'm given understanding, I'm given affection, like it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Attentive, compassionate, understanding love has helped me to be a better man and a better father. And thus far, my kids are pretty compassionate and understanding themselves. And you could tell like who their daddy is, right? And when you start life with that foundation of giving, of getting outside of yourself, of sharing, of being understanding, of being compassionate, of not pointing the finger and saying, you need to change for me to feel better. It's like the building blocks to a good life. I've seen some of the opposite kind of be at play where it's like, damn, like bro never got love and just always fucking angry. Just these environments of, you know, where there are no present parents or there's no love being fed into. There's no attentiveness. Like nobody necessarily has shown that they give a fuck about me. I've seen how that kind of plays a role in like destruction as well, where people don't even know what these things feel like. And because they don't know what they feel like they have a deficiency. And maybe I get it from drugs, because there's some drugs that give you that same feeling, that give you that rush, that snap that thing off, that those receptors that allow for those chemicals to be released into the body. And now you depend on these drugs to be able to get that to you. This is what love feels like. That's why like heroin is so fucking sad. Like when I see that and you see like all the old movies, or you see people like, it's like, yo, I will go to the end of the earth for this shit. Love is very, 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 very important. It's a very important addition to the human experience, in my opinion. So what are some ways that we can show love now? And bear with me throughout this episode. I'm just trying to be as authentic as possible. And I want you all to understand one thing before we get into this last segment. This is like one of many episodes that we're going to do on meditating around love, because it's such a deep topic and there's so many different guests that I want to have on to talk about their understanding of love. And I want to tap into you, the community, for what you believe that love is, because I think when we all get together and kind of put our understandings together, we can come to a higher understanding together, one that helps for us to look at life through different lenses, to look at life in maybe a new way unlike we've ever looked at life before. So let's get into some ways to show love now. So after a lot of meditation in my own life, and after a big breakup, and after a big transformation of what I come to understand love is being, and after lots of reading, and after lots of healing, and after lots of showing up for myself, I had arrived to this simple quote that helped me to really show up in love, really be love, and really kind of understand love. And what's crazy is I mentioned this quote to a good friend of mine, and she was against it. Like, she was like, no. And I come to find out once again how language can be a barrier, how the words can be a thing that prevents us from understanding what it is that we are saying to each other. Like, it's like how the words can stop us from connecting, because this word may mean something to you, whereas for me, it means this for me. Like, it's freeing for me, but it's a prison to you. And it's just a word. But underneath it all, maybe we're saying the same thing. And I just thought that was interesting. And since that interaction, like I've kind of meditated more on this saying to see if like I can say it better or say it more cohesively, or if I even stand by it still. And the way I come to understand it, like I still pretty much stand by it. And that is that love is understanding. So sitting on that for a second, love is understanding. So what was presented to me when I presented this to this friend, she had said, well, how could you truly understand if you've never been me? Like, how can you love? That means you can't never truly love me because you've never been me, so you can never truly understand. And I understand that. I get that. The way I'm coming at it is from a whole totally different angle, and it's that the process of understanding is showing up for whatever it is in this moment, right? So whatever it is that I'm presented with, understanding allows for me to show up and understand in the process, like delve into the process of understanding and allow for whatever is shown to me to be whatever it is without me having to change it. And like, so love, the unconditional nature of true love is comparable to that. Whereas like if I show up in real love, like no matter what it is that you present to me, like even if I don't get it, like I can seek to understand it. And that's really what love is that process of showing up and understanding, right? So like back to the story with the carpet. I will beat the shit out the carpet, and push down and punch down on the carpet because it needs to be red, but it's blue. But if I show up in love, like I could begin that process where it's like, well, but the carpet is blue. And I mean, I wonder what the carpet had to go through to get to where it is. And maybe I should have compassion and understanding for the carpet being blue. And like really like massaging into my existence the fact that this carpet is blue and coming to understand that it's blue and it may never be red. That may be what I want for the carpet, but the carpet is fucking blue. Like the carpet gonna be blue. So like love is understanding in that manner. And that's what I mean when I say that, like, no matter what life and the people, places, and things in it present to us, if we seek to understand, we are showing up in love, extending grace and allowing people to live. And that's like, I still stand by that. I still stand on that. And I still practice that because sometimes, so say like romantically, like I'm involved with somebody and quote unquote romantically, right? And we get married or whatever, right? And after 20 years of marriage, they come to the conclusion that they need to be over there. They can no longer be here with me. They need to be over there with them, whoever them is, her, him, whoever they need to go be with. They're being pulled to be over there instead of being here with me like we've been for the past 20 years. Classically, I'm your husband. This is what we're supposed to do. We done hung in there for 20 years. I can't let you do that. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you do that? We've been this for this long. You've been this. You've been here for me. I've been here for you. Look at all we have. Look at all we built, right? But love is understanding as the concept would allow. I may not agree with it, but if I'm to show up in love, I gotta allow for it. You gotta go over there. You gotta do what you're called to do. And that's what love is. That's what showing up in love is, right? And that just jives better with my spirit than me holding on to you and grabbing onto you. It's like, no, we built this thing and this thing is what it is and it's got to be what it is because we've developed it this way. And it's like, that's just like to allow for people to be what people are, no matter what it is that they are and no matter what it is that they're called to do, regardless of societal vehicles and cultural implications, whatever it is that your spirit is pulled to. If I'm to show up in love for you, I'm to allow for that, whatever that is. And once again, take everything I say with a grain of salt because who the fuck am I? The more I learn, the more I find out I don't know. So, hey, it's like, no, I'm an authority in this space. Anyways, another way to show love now is self-love. And that's the biggest shit in the world, right? With self-love. And really, if you ask me, like, this flavor of love precedes any other type of flavor of love. Whole flavor of love. I used to be my shit. Yeah, Bryce used to watch reality shows. Storm me out. But yeah, I can guarantee you there'll be a whole episode of You Feel That dedicated to this topic. So we're not even going to trip about how deep we go into this. But we can only give what we possess. So we have to tend to ourselves. If we don't tend to ourselves, then anything outside of ourselves that we receive will not be substantial enough for us because we don't even give to ourselves. We need to begin with us because if we don't begin with us, then now we mistakenly pursue others to be substantial for ourselves. But I can only be for me. Like, let me clear this up. Let me get a little bit simpler with this. If I am looking for love first, anywhere else outside of myself, and this could be romantic, whatever, right? Like, if I'm looking for anything to make me feel better, now I depend on something outside of me to make me feel better, and things outside of me come and go. Remember that example that I gave you earlier about the woman that I've been married to 20 years going over there? Like, if that is the reason that I lived and I let that go, or, I allowed for it to be what it is, and that was the reason that I lived, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. It's not about me. It's about who I am when I'm with you, right? And that's my life. So I'm learning, like, self-love is learning who I am when I'm with me, right? And the cool, crazy thing about self-love is the more that we do it, the more we practice it, the deeper we get into it, the more of a field we create around ourselves that attracts people that are doing the same thing. Like, people that care about themselves and love themselves and really give a shit about themselves are just way better to kick it with. Like, it's just less stressful it's less stressful. It's more exciting. There's more creative moments. There's better conversation when somebody is okay with being by themselves. If a good sign for me to stay the fuck away from somebody is when people can't sit still. I got to be over here with them, and I got to be over here with them, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. I mean, it's not saying that having activity is not a great thing, but you could always tell that flavor of activity that's only happening because you can't fucking sit with yourself. And the reason I can tell what that looks like is because I've been there. Like, I've been there. And it's a practice not to be that. I can definitely be that today. If I don't practice taking care of myself and loving on myself, I could definitely be that today. So it's important for me to be able to show up for myself, because in showing up for myself, I'm showing up to the fullest extent for myself, and I'm building this thing that is worth sharing with somebody. If I don't even have an understanding or a relationship with myself, like, it's not substantial. What am I going to share with you anyway? We out here looking for people to complete us, but nobody outside of us can ever complete us. So if I'm not 100% whole and full when I meet somebody else, there can't be no interdependence, only codependence. And when I codependently, when I depend on you to make me happy, like, it's a losing game. It's unfair to you, and I'll never be happy, because my happiness goes with the waves of how it is that you are today and how it is that you show up. That's unfair to all parties. So self-love is huge. The mirror effect, what we see in how we treat others is just a reflection of what we see in how we treat ourselves, which is wild. Like, especially like I could always tell, like, if people are in the dating pool and they're like, oh, somebody peed in the dating pool, or, oh, this is the options in the dating pool, like, wah, 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 it's because you suck. And I hope this hits you in the jaw. I hope this punches you in the face, because you suck. And I love everybody. I love you. I love you. And I'm saying this with love. But you fucking suck. If you can't see the good in the world, you fucking suck. And I'm talking to myself. I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking to me. But are we all the same? Is love and God the same thing? Are we all connected? Who knows? I'm just saying, like, anything that I see outside of myself is just a reflection of what's going on inside of myself, or something that maybe could exist within myself. So it's best for me to work inside out. It's better for me to work inside out. I can't even change people. So what's the point of holding a grudge and trying to work in a way that changes people? Like, I have to change myself. And then a change that occurs in myself can be the light that shines that maybe somebody else can see and be inspired to change if they so choose. But I can't grab anybody else and be like, change. Because, you may change. You may change for while I'm in front of you, but because and for me. But as soon as I leave, you're going to go back to what it is that you are internally driven to. That's not real change. That's intimidation. I don't want to intimidate. I want to spread love. And the only way I can spread love is if I start to love myself. And love is such a loaded word that there's so many things we can do to love ourselves. Hence the fact that we're going to have to do a whole episode on this. I'm sorry. And in self-love, there's self-improvement, self-discipline, self-respect, self-reliance, self-forgiveness, self-service, self-confidence, self-esteem. And starting on the inside and beginning the process of creating a space where these things can exist within ourselves, allow for us to cultivate the ability to create a space where we can give that to others. We can only give that which we have practiced within ourselves. Self-love is of the utmost importance. And this is the perfect moment to recommend this book that I've been reading recently called Love 101 to Love Oneself is the Beginning of a Lifelong Romance by Peter McWilliams. And when I tell you, it's kind of funny, he's a humorist. And so like there's some humor thrown in there, but it's some real cohesive, direct meditations around what it is to love ourselves and the process that goes into cultivating this practice of self-love. Pick it up. So those of y'all who, like me, are looking for tangible things to do right now in this moment, here are some tangible ways to show love. Reach out, show people you care through the actions you take, and like genuinely care. And we're going back to self-love. Like I can only care as much for you as I care for myself. So I should prioritize loving myself and getting the care and giving genuine appreciation and attention to myself before I begin giving attention and appreciation to others. But once I have started that practice within myself, like spread that. We talked about how love is the connectivity emotion. Love is the connectivity drug, right? Like, so I don't like using the word drug. Fuck the word drug. But love is the connectivity emotion. Love has a connotation of connectivity. So we got to spread this. And what's crazy is it's one of those things that in order to keep it, we have to give it away. Which might sound contradictory to what I was saying before, where it's like I can't give it if I don't possess it. If I don't practice it within myself, I can't give it. But once I have the ability to give it, like in order to keep it and be able to keep it within myself, I got to give it away. Ooh, this is like a conundrum. My daughter used to bring home these worksheets with conundrums, and they would have like these impossible situations that, they had to figure out like what's the right answer, and it would never be a right answer, right? But this is the conundrum of love. Like we have to give it away in order to keep it. And the more we give it away, the more that we have to give to ourselves. But we have to begin with giving it to ourselves. Does this sound applicable? He said applicable tools. But this has just been my experience in practice. This has been what I have been subjected to due to circumstances in life. And so reaching out, like giving it away, like what it is that you needed when you needed it. If you see somebody going through what you may have been going through and then you learn to give it to yourself, like give it to them. Give it to them and don't look for it back. Like reach out, pick up the phone, tell somebody you love them. Learn to be here in this moment, present, not in the unforeseeable future or in the unchangeable past, but in this moment with the people that you are seeking to care about. And when you think about parental figures, or you think about siblings, or you think about friends that, you grew up with, we can often tend to be in this moment with them, but not here because we are here with who we thought they were and who we continue to think that they used to be right now. But like real love shows up in this moment. Real love allows for me to be my best right now, this moment. And real love allows for me to show up and create a space for people to feel seen and expressed, as well as for me to be able to be seen and be expressed. Reach out. And while we're speaking on being present and attentive to the person you're spending time with, like, you can speak about the love language paradigm, which is like learning how people need to receive love, because sometimes how I want to give love isn't how people receive love. So maybe me giving love is I give gifts, but maybe somebody receiving gifts isn't how love translates to them. So learn, once you have the ability to understand what it is that you require, learn that other people require different things. So to be able to show up for other people, we have to take the time to study how people need to be shown up for. Because we can try to bulldoze. I'm trying to show you love. You don't see I'm trying to show you love, but they don't see it that way because that's not how they receive love. So learning to speak the language of love in order to give the love that is in alignment with what people need to receive, what people culturally have been raised to understand is love. Like I said, like love is such a huge word, such a huge practice, such a huge action. It's like, okay, this might mean something different to you than it does to me. So can I take the opportunity to seek to understand how you need to receive it and what it is that you've come to understand that love is? And because I want to share and give love, take a second to hear that and then show up in alignment with that. And the biggest thing to end this whole thing off with, ask questions. Ask questions. Ask how people need to be cared for. Ask, what do people need? Ask, what would you like from me? Ask, what are you looking from the world? Ask, what is love to you? That's a great conversation starter. A lot of people don't want to go that deep, right? But it's like, that's how I know that I'm kicking it with somebody that I could connect with. What does love mean to you? And then we can have a conversation about it, especially if we don't agree especially if we don't agree, because I need to be subjected to different points of views, like we talked about earlier in the episode. Ask questions, and you'll get that feedback from people, from places, and from things about what love is and how love is representative in the current place and space that you're in. And just like that, we out of here. I don't want to spend too much time on one episode because this is multiple episodes. This will be a continual meditation for the life of You Feel That, because underneath everything that Bryce the Third does is love. Underneath everything that I've created is love, right? And what am I really saying when I say that? It's so interpretive. Who knows? But at least we got to tackle a couple of things about it today. At least we got to delve in a little bit about it. At least I was able to get a bit transparent, and you got to get to know me more a little bit from my points of views around love. And hopefully, if you never thought about these things, you know how the lawnmower, when you pull the cord and you got to pull the cord a couple of times before the engine actually gets going. Hopefully we pulled your cord a couple of times today, and hopefully we got your engine going, and hopefully we got your mind thinking and your heart moving to figure out what love means to you in your life. But this is definitely a to be continued circumstance. You know the deal. Before we get up out of here, if you haven't already, go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review for this podcast if you get anything from it. If you go to my YouTube channel and go to the video for this podcast and go in the comments and say that you left a rating and review and let me know when you did it, and you do it before 11/11/21, you will be entered into a draw for one of 5 You Feel That with Bryce the Third trucker hats from New Era. These boys is crispy clean. New Era. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you see the quality. If you're on a podcast, look, listen. You can hear the quality. Ooh. So make sure you do that, because you definitely going to need one of these, because the winter months is coming and you're going to need to cover that head. You know what I'm talking about? When you get over to the YouTube, subscribe. And if you watch this on YouTube, leave in the comments, what role has love played in your life? What does love mean to you? What do you think love is? What is your cultural understanding? What beliefs have brought you to today, and where are you at with love? We'd love for you to share that with us. See what I did there? If you got anything out of this podcast, share it with somebody. Share the love. See what I did there again? Follow me on social media. I'm at Bryce the Third. And if you want to drop a couple bucks and support this show, buy me a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but that's what it's called, so we're going to go with it. If you're listening straight to the podcast, it should be in the show notes or whatever you're listening to this podcast on. If you're on the YouTube, it will be in the video description. And as always, I'm going to leave y'all with a quote. This quote comes from the book that I recommended, Love 101, To Love Oneself is the Beginning of a Lifelong Romance by Peter McWilliams. And it is by Lily Tomlin. If love is the answer, could you rephrase the question? Think on that. I'll catch y'all next time on You Feel That with Bryce the Third. So welcome back, and I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed the episode, and I hope that it gave you a new perspective on love and revved that engine around what it is that you have come to understand love as being, and maybe even piqued your curiosity as to how you can continue to add context to what it is that you think love is, and how you can contribute, and how you can receive, and how you can facilitate, and how you can teach, and all those good things. So before we get out of here, I want to do a quick guided meditation based upon what it is that we just heard. So find yourself a space where you can be still. If you're driving or if you're out and about, don't close your eyes. You could just listen and bring your awareness to our practice. Let's start by taking a deep breath in the nostrils, out the mouth. Settling into the body. Settling into contemplations of love. How can we notice? How can we become aware of the love in this moment? No matter what posture you're in, even if you're driving with your eyes open, bringing awareness to this meditation, as well as awareness to the levels of support that are present in this moment. Feeling the beating of the heart, becoming aware of the breathing in and out without us having to put forth any effort for this breathing to take place. Noticing our good friend gravity in the weight of our buttocks on whatever it is that we're sitting on, keeping us from flying off of this rock we call home. What is love if not the support that is present in this moment? We can tend to be so focused on stimulation and ripping and running and our worries and the things we have to get done that we can forget about the simple levels of support that are present in our lives. Feeling the body rise and fall along the natural wave of the breath, not focusing too much on the breathing, not doing anything other than what we would usually do. Just showing up in this moment and bringing awareness to how we are supported. If there are thoughts, that's perfect. If we're breathing fast, short, long, deep, shallow, all perfect. You are supported in this moment and always. Ending this meditation with a deep breath in the nostrils. Feel the body rise and out of the mouth. One more in the nostrils. Feel the body rise out of the mouth. You are supported. You are supported. You are supported. Once again, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of You Feel That with Bryce the Third. And I will catch you next time. Sending love.